I just wanted to start off by just giving you a little bit of a translation when I went into that chant and went into that spiritual space and place throughout the ritual here, just so that you can understand that those words have very deep meaning to my people and very deep meaning to nature and to Sky Father, Pachamama, and all of us in between. So what I was saying in that chant is all things in nature reflect everything. The entire makeup of the world, the cosmos, the universe. When we are in tune with nature, we are in tune with ourselves, and there lies the answers to everything. To us, it's a proverbial chant from our ancestors, a chant that not only acknowledges the waters of this place, but it acknowledges the waters of the surrounding ecosystems that assist creating the life-giving waters in us. So that was the chant. I hope you resonated with that ritual. We will be closing down with a ritual. To us, everything we do is ritual. So thank you for accommodating us throughout this time to include our ritual. Tēnā rā koutou katoa. So I just want to say too that I am so honoured to be here with you all, to be invited, to be a part of this great gathering, to be a keynote speaker as an Indigenous woman. And it is my hope that this is not the only time that you will see an Indigenous woman up on the stage. There will be many more opportunities for Indigenous women like me to be here, to be speaking to you all, to provide our insights to you all, and that will help our young people to aspire to be here too. All you Indigenous wahine, all you Indigenous women and men, no mai haere mai ki te wāhi o tōku kōrero. I'm just calling you all, manifesting that this is not the only time you will see somebody like me up here. Now, I know our beautiful wahine has introduced me, but I just want to go into the Māori or taha Māori or Māori worldview of how we introduce ourselves, in the hope that it provides understanding to you all that we don't actually introduce ourselves as, "Hi, my name is Thalea." So before I start, if you haven't met any Indigenous Māori before, we start our personal introductions by naming our mountains, by naming our seas, by naming our rivers, our forests, our landscapes, our flora and our fauna, our tribal affiliations, and then ourselves. So let me introduce myself. Ko Maunganui te Maunga. Maunganui is the mountain that I hail from. Ko Waikara te awa. Waikara is the river that flows from the mountain into the place whence we live. Ko Hokianga te wahapu o te moana o Taitāma Tāne. Hokianga is the river mouth that meets the sea to the west. Ko Waipaua te matua ngāhere o Tāne Mahuta. Waipaua is the forest that looks after all Tāne's children, the trees, the flora, the fauna, and all our relatives. Ko te roroa, ko ngā puhi, ko ngā tīwhātua, ko ngā tikwhakawe, oku iwi. I hail from the tribes of those four names, which I'm not going to name again. ko Thalea tōku ingoa, and hence, therefore, my name is Thalea Tane. So my surname is Tane, directly connected to Tane Mahuta of the forest in the Waipora forest of where my family and where my people come from. Tihei Mauri ora. So it is my hope that this brief introduction gives you insight, that when I name those landscapes, that you understand that I've named who I am and where I come from. In our language, we also incorporate proverbs to introduce ourselves, like ko au, ko te tai ao, ko au. I am the environment. I am the river. I am the forest and the river and the environments are me. We believe that these treasured life forces are our connection to who we are and where we come from, our identity. They constantly remind us of our roles and responsibilities, though, as guardians and stewards of Mother Earth, Sky Father, our people, and our future generations. So it's inbred in us from the day we were born that we are to be the kaitiaki, the stewards of the lands that we were born into. We don't see our lands as any type of ownership. The lands are a sense of belonging for us, and we belong to the lands. The signs and the symbols, the patterns of the mountains, the forests, the waters, our wildlife, the seen and the unseen, our ancestors, Mother Earth, Sky Father, link us to all things as they have always done and as they have always cared for us. So therefore, we inherently resonate and take care of these places and spaces and everything in between. However, it wasn't always this way. We have had to reclaim those roles. We have had to reclaim those responsibilities as we too were colonised and marginalised in our own lands. We had most of our lands stolen or taken by force and we were treated as second-class citizens in our own country. This story is no different to many countries and stories around the world. However, it was only 200 years ago, and I was speaking to a wonderful person that was here a couple of days ago from Hungary, and he actually said, "You're lucky. You were only colonised 200 years ago. We were colonised hundreds of years ago and we have no memory." So that made me feel like, wow, how lucky are we? However, I guess what we call the doctrine of discovery is a template, yeah? It's been a template across and around the world for all of us to learn from, to experience, have intergenerational memory, and rise from. So this doctrine of discovery phenomena, what happened is probably most of you know, the missionary assimilation happened first. The invasion from the British colonies came. Then the colonization atrocities began. But it was not long ago in the scheme of things that happened to my people. I guess that's why I reflected upon what this man said to me, because he made me change my talk, actually. What we've been able to do in those 200 years is we've been able to sustain our collective consciousness and piece together our type of resurgence that has evolved exponentially over the last 25 to 50 years or so. It's pretty amazing what happens when your language and your culture are on the brink of extinction. It helps you to move fast and revitalise, what it is to be Māori. I remember all too well as a young activist, and by the way, we grow up as young activists from babies. It's just in us. As soon as we start experiencing the racism in our country, start experiencing the second-class citizenship in our own lands, you become an activist by default. But it's amazing, as I say. I remember too well, as a young activist, my elders shared this message to us, and it goes like this. You young ones, it took one generation for these people to assimilate us, and it's taken 3 generations to reinvigorate our own language and our own culture. Don't let that happen again. No pressure. So I give you this snapshot of the history of my people in the hope that you can see that if we dare to trust, we can reclaim, we can revitalise our communities, we can remember who we are in the natural order of things. How did we come back from the brink to learn about who we are and how we connect to the waters? Our people created safe spaces just like this. We call them wānanga. The gatherings that we have are hundreds of tribal members, very, very similar to this. So I feel very at home with all you wonderful people. We create ways to regularly unlearn, regularly decolonise, regularly relearn dialogue and re-indigenise ourselves into the nature of Papatuanuku and Ranginui and everything in between. And I know that a lot of the young people that have come to me in the last few days saying that they don't know who they are and where they come from, you come from the earth, you come from the skies, and all of the ecosystems are you. So, it's easy to talk about my culture when I've been born and bred into it, but when you have not, remember what my culture is talking about. It's talking about the same things. So in this day and age, some of what we are doing at this gathering include similar activities, workshops, talks, meditation, guided visualization, waiata, singing, kanikani, dancing. And in our culture, we also ritualize the haka. So I will teach you the haka at the end of this talk. You ready? So most of our gatherings also include, which you would have experienced, acknowledging our deity, our atua, our saints, and they are, in our belief system, part of the ecosystem that look after the domains for life-giving waters that are provided to us and to sustain our life-giving waters. So it is our belief that we need all those dimensions to interact and interlink when we collectively co-create our next iteration of our new world, yeah? So whether our activities include regenerating our forests by planting out our native trees or designing intergenerational 100+ year ecological restoration plans, or whether we are planning a countrywide mobilisation and protest to our corrupt government, or occupying the lakes and the waterways and the seas that are about to be polluted by overseas corporations for mining exploration. It is the indigenous people of Aotearoa and our allies who are constantly on the front line. Don't get me started about that, that's another story. But many of our activities include ritual, and I do want to emphasize that, because with ritual, it gets you into a stage, a state, and a mode of we can do it, and we will do it. So it's all encompassed by ritual to evoke and dare to trust that things will work out. May not be in my time, but definitely in my children and my children's children's time. As they are meant to, whether they are long-term dreams and aspirations, whether we win a case in the High Court to get the government to give our land back, or whether we are simply building capacity in our young, upcoming leaders that are tomorrow to take the reins and carry on with the causes of protecting and preserving our taiao, our environment. Ritual brings forth elements of trust to all our activations. They bring hope to our nations, that our desires to create better, lighter, more sacred and cherishing ways to live on Mother Earth. To us, rituals bring hope that our desires will come to pass, and as I said, if not today, in the intergenerational continuum, as we have done so 200 years before. So you see, my ancestors taught us how to future gaze 7 generations ahead, to incite holistic community development plans, holistic ecological restoration projects, interconnected with our language, our songs, our chants, our hakas, and our sacred prayers and blessings. And time has proven that we will survive and that we will withstand the test of time, and we're not going anywhere. So I thank you one and all, and I'm going to hand it back to our brother, Stefan, and thank you for hearing me out this morning. Tēnā rā koutou katoa.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing this indigenous wisdom we so easily forget. We so easily come with our knowledge and forget about the wisdom you are sharing. Thank you very much. Also in speaking on behalf of indigenous women from all over the world. And we hear you, and we also hope to offer the stage to many more. Thank you very much. Today it's a lot about water. And when I met Silvano yesterday for the first time, I thought, oh, what a nice guy, what a fantastic energy he has. How strong he is here and how fluid at the same time. Silvano was born not so far from here at a beautiful Allgäu, and he said specifically Italian and German water in his body. When he started his professional life as a humanitarian aid worker in Haiti, he realized this is not the type of work he would like to continue with. It's important, but not the way we do it in development aid. So he was looking for something different. He was looking for a place where he can combine community, love, water, restoring inner and outer landscapes. And no big surprise, he ended up in a community. He ended up in Tamera 14 years ago, where he's working ever since. I don't know if you have had the chance to see Tamera and these huge retention lakes, and how, besides all the other works they are doing there, they really changed a more or less, I can't say a dead landscape because it's never dead, but a desert type of landscape into a beautiful habitat. And this is also the work Silvano is doing for the nature and for us. He's working on restoring and closing water cycles. And this is his focus as a practitioner, to actually doing the work as a trainer and consultant. If you want to know a little bit more about the work, you can find the movie Water is Love. It's a free movie you can find in the internet. Just check it out, it's worthwhile. So I'm very, very happy to have Silvano Rizzi here on stage. Thank you so much for coming over.
Thank you so much. Very exciting to sit and be in front of you. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm very honored to get the space next to Thalea. Thank you very much. I'm humbled and honored also to be part of ceremony with you. And with all of you, thank you very much. Thank you for the trust. And so I was born in Florence, actually, in Italy. It's all good. But grew up in a beautiful Allgäu. So I feel very connected also to these waters here. It's very similar and very close. Yeah, what dare to trust the earth, water, sentence, water topic in these times of crisis, especially climate crisis. So can be a not so easy topic. I find it actually a very easy topic. And I would like to try to seduce you a little bit in the easiness of this. It's still very complex, and I find this ritual and what Thalea said is like the base and the start, I would say. The water cycle often is being called as the crisis, but I think it's more a symptom of, let's say, I would say as an ecologist and coming from Tamera, we work a lot with landscapes, with microclimates and so on. We would say it's, and many more people and experts say that actually it's a symptom and a result of a broken water cycle. And we heard it also from Martin already that actually this broken water cycle and much more is actually a result of our way of the system that we're living in, like capitalism, patriarchy, which at the end, it's a crisis of relationships. So I'm very grateful that we can start with a ritual, because I think we have to start again with relationship building, getting to know each other, and amongst the people, but especially with the elements, with the spirits, with the flowers, with the vegetation, the animals that share with us the place, that are part of us and we are part of them. We are the same ecosystem. And ritual, I think it's also a way of giving gratitude. So with this, you also create an openness. And this openness, I think, is very helpful to observe and to perceive, which is actually the first principle if you want to build water retention landscapes, if you want to restore landscapes. Because you are not working with numbers, you're working with beings. So you can say, or I like to say, that landscape restoration is building relationships. And so after listening and after knowing the place, then you can start to think what you want to do, or what is maybe helpful to do. But this can take maybe years. I'm living since 14 years in this project in South Portugal, and I'm still observing. And I think I will observe, I hope I will observe all my lifetime. So after we observe, I hope we can start to act and to be again the people, the tribe that we have been. In some areas, it's still there. It's still very close. In some, it's more far away. But actually to be stewards and caretakers of life. And we speak often about water is life. And so springs, for example, is a puzzle piece, is a sacred puzzle piece of the big, sacred, big water cycle. But for a spring, we need a watershed. So I mentioned already some names of this watershed with the mountains and the creeks. So the watersheds are communities. It's a network, it's an ecosystem. And if this is healthy and taken care by communities, we have constant flowing spring water all year long in many places in the world, depending on the context. So if we don't take care of watersheds, the water's not being taken care, and water and the ecosystem cannot follow its function and its gifts. So a land flourishes if from the earth where life begins, like a beautiful song, thank you very much for this. If this comes with clouds on our land and the raindrops fall on vegetation and then fall further down into spongy, fertile earth full of life. And what is not yet used infiltrates further deep into the aquifers, into the ground, which fills up the aquifers, and its result, its fruits and gifts are the springs. And these springs flow very beautifully, wild and meandering, and go back to the big oceans, to the big water bodies, where then the water cycle starts again. If this is possible, if this is functioning, life thrives a lot. Water is life. But nowadays, unfortunately, because of disturbance of relationship, a lot of things are disturbed in the big water cycle. So the raindrop cannot fall anymore on vegetation. And it's not always a forest. It can be grasslands, savannas. It depends where you come from. But there the raindrops nowadays often are touching, are falling on compressed, compacted, naked, opened soil, which actually you cannot really call them anymore soil. In Portugal, it's actually not, there's no soil anymore. It's all washed away by the raindrops that have been meant to go into the ground and to refill aquifers. But nowadays, we are used to have runoff. So my creek, even in South Bavaria at the Allgäu, nowadays when it's raining, suddenly the rivers go very high and the beautiful green, transparent blue water becomes brown. And I feel it becoming a normal picture, a normal story. But actually it's a symptom, it's a sign of a broken water cycle and disturbed and mismanaged landscape and watershed around. So these waters are being drained in drainages, in straightened channels, which I wouldn't call them unfortunately anymore rivers, and as fast as possible being drained into the ocean. So the cause is that the aquifers are not being recharged, and so the springs are not being filled anymore, and so they get dry, and so the rivers and the creeks get dry. This is happening in South Portugal, but I see this already happening here, even though it's very green. But a healthy ecosystem is a healthy watershed, but it's also a healthy ecosystem with all its beings that belong to a place. I would like to invite you to see the water in everything what is green. Water is everywhere. It's not just in open water bodies and in rivers. It's in the soil, it's in the air, and in everything what is alive. To become watershed communities, it's a lot of, I call it re-indigenizing as much as we can. And this is to get to know your place. And maybe some people of you are nomads from eco-village to eco-village. And still, I think, you can use every moment or every day or time you have at a place to observe and to be curious and to honor and to indigenize in this moment as much as you can at this place. To get a relationship. For the German-speaking of you, there's a book from my mother. Her name is Susanne Fischer-Rizzi, and she wrote a book. In German it's called Das Geheimnis deines Ortes, Anleitung zum Heimischwerden. The translation is The Secret of Your Place, Instructions to Become Indigenous Too. So if I try to restore landscapes or to support people to restore landscapes, one of the first things is to try to indigenize to a place, to know about the places, what we forgot, to try to remember again. The big water cycle is big, but we have small water cycles. We have very local water cycles, and we can restore very globally. We can think very globally, but restoring, it's much easier there where you are, locally. In South Portugal, the community where I'm coming from, where I learned a lot from, is called Tamera. And we have been thinking that there's not enough water. So also there, we had to go through a process from scarcity to trust. And it was a big process. Our courses, our seminars have been called desert camps. Now we give water courses. It's a big story of success. And in our case, we had to bring in somebody that was not identified with this lack of water that we have. We even had to buy waters from outside. So we brought in Sepp Holzitz, an Austrian permaculture rebel, and he invited us to look through his eyes. He said, if you would look through my eyes, you would see there's no lack of water. It's about management, about managing these amounts of water you have. You are rich. And so I think wherever you come from, you're probably also very, very rich. It's just the way of looking at it and working with it together in cooperation. So since 2007, with the Pulsar, we built the first retention space. We tried and we managed to close the water cycle on our land. We tried to take responsibility for the runoff that has been created on our land. And so after a year, after the first winter, these ponds have been full, overflowing and overflowing. So from then on, we have been building back ecosystems with the acupuncture points of water infiltrating into the earth body and the ecosystems using the water and the elements and thriving again and healing with us the landscapes. We just actually do a little bit. Nature, if we let it do, it gives so much. So we had to look at our watersheds And it is nature's way of organizing community. It's all the land that drains into one spot. So a success story was also that we started doing it. We didn't think so much what do the others say and what is it dry or not. We just did it. And while we did it, we became a model. And already this, I think, is so valuable. If you walk the talk and do what you stand behind, maybe people first at the beginning, they look at you a little bit strange. And still, we have people that look at us very strange. It's okay. I try to be patient and loving. But many, many people observed us. And many, many neighbors in our bioregion, in our watershed, started to build what we also did, to close the water cycle. So what we have now is a huge community that is constantly still, also this year and next year, continuing building water retention landscapes. And this is a beautiful success story, because also how Martin said it, it's not enough to be a bubble. We buffered the extremes of this interrupted water cycle, the droughts and the floods, which are part of the disturbed water cycle. We built a buffer. And this buffer, we had 3 years ago a period of time that was really dry, a drought of 5 years. And we managed to buffer this easily. And then in the winter following, we had a lot of rain. And this year we had a lot of rain, a lot of water, that we could slow it and spread it and sink it into the ground, which is another principle of water retention. A very famous one in permaculture. Slow it, spread it, and sink it, and share it. I would love to watch them clowns. So, what we also did is we started pilgrimages along our watershed. And I really recommend to walk your waters from the beginning of your springs to the end, to the oceans. In South Portugal, it's very easy, and it's shorter. You can do this in some days, easily. We took 2 weeks. From here, it's a bit longer. There are beautiful bicycle trails and so on, but it's such an empowerment. It's such a way of connecting with the larger community you are part of. You start a relationship where you start to take care. We also started to take care of local springs. We started an initiative called Fontes Vivas, where we try to find the sacred, most important, I think all are sacred, but the most important springs. And we went there, we go there now once a year, and honoring them, putting flowers, making rituals, trying to collect again the stories, the myth, the songs, the traditions of these places, of these springs, of these waters. And it's true that in Europe, these traditions are quite forgotten. But if you look enough, there are many, many hints, many, many stories still. Maybe they have now different language or are hidden behind other structures or pictures, but they are there. Try to find the mermaids of your waters. Die schöne Lau, for example. And many, many more. There are local ones of the big rivers, of the small springs. Connect with these mermaids and these spirits. They are beautiful stories. Sometimes the stories are a little bit changed by time and cultures, but try to look behind. They're usually caretakers and protectors. I think that communities hold one of the greatest potentials of our times. Eco-villages, land-based communities, and local initiatives can become living laboratories for restoration. So I'm also excited so much to speak in front of you because you're all my heroes. I think we have great conditions to be again back rooted in community and daring and investing in restoration. Communities already contain the seeds of mutual aid, how Mickey was mentioning, I think. Cooperation and resilience. Perhaps this is one of their greatest gifts. I would like to refuse to adapt to climate change. I don't want to adapt to capitalism and patriarchy. I would like to invite you to restore the climate and the crisis. And I think it's much easier and it's much more fun. So, with this, I would like also to quote a beautiful person. It could also come, I could also quote probably you or your family and your tribe. It's from Robin Wall Kimmerer, from Braiding Sweetgrass. Very inspiring, very touching book. And you can translate it, I think, a bit with the principles for wherever you are or where you come from. She says in the book of Braiding Sweetgrass, as we work to heal the earth heals us. So with this, I would like to invite you to put back your hands into the earth and to root again into the earth's body. Welcome to landscape restoration. Welcome to the age of restoration. And it's very independent if you live in a city, if you just have a flat, if you have a lot of land. I'm taking care of 140 hectares with my community. I would call this a lot. But also if you have just half a hectare, it doesn't matter. We have footprints we leave with how we consume, with how we are, how we observe, how we interact. We can take easily and playful our responsibility in stacking functions that our needs are met and we give. So thank you very much for being here and listening to us.